Hi there, welcome to my channel and welcome as well to my first ever Flosstube video. I'm Alice, aka the Stormy Stitcher, and this is going to be a video all about cross stitch. So I've been cross stitching since I was about 10 years old, I think, when my grandma bought me my first ever cross stitch kit, and I've sort of done it in dribs and drabs over the years since then, but I've really started to take it seriously over the last year. I discovered Flosstube in a big way and now spend many hours watching Flosstube videos as well as stitching. My stash has multiplied massively over the last year or so, and I've discovered different fabrics and different, floss and all sorts of wonderful things that I didn't know existed before. And so I thought I would start making Flosstube to share my stitching with all you guys out there. So I hope you enjoy it. So I thought I'd start by showing you a couple of my old finishes. So this is one that I finished last summer and put in a little frame. Let me try and get it so there's no glare. Oh, I think there's going to be a bit of glare. So this is the Tea and Cake Stitch Along from Lakeside Needlecrafts, and it was a free pattern. I think it's still available on their website. You can get the whole thing now for free. And it's just nice sort of pastel-y bright colours, and it says let's eat cake and let's drink tea, two of my favourite activities. And I didn't do a great job with the framing, it's definitely not even on all sides, but this is one of the first pieces that I tried to frame myself, so I'm not too disappointed about that. There we go. Another one of my old finishes is this one, which is Star Hoops by Stitcherovia. And I bought this pattern from Stitcherovia's Etsy shop, and there's actually 4 of them, but because of my poor fabric choice, by the time I'd stitched the first 3, I couldn't quite face going back to stitch the final one. So the ones that I did manage to do, oh sorry about that glare, are Sweet Dreams, Shine Bright, there we go, that's a bit better, and Make a Wish. And I've used a little bit of metallic-y thread in them just to add a bit of glitter. So yeah, the fabric was a weird one. I don't know where it came from. It just found its way into my stash. I think it was in a job lot I bought from someone else. And it's hard to describe. It's a very loose weave. Let me put it right up so you can see. It's a very loose weave, so it's not really Aida, it's not even weave. I guess it's almost like a linen. But I found the threads of the fabric were very almost wobbly as I was trying to stitch on them, even though I had it in a very tight frame. So I wasn't too disappointed to finish stitching this one because it was a bit of a headache, and it means my stitches, as you can see there in Shine Bright, are a bit all over the place. But if you don't look up at it really close and you stand back and have a look, it's quite cool. There we go, so that's that one. And then this one's a bit of a cheeky one because it's not my finish. This is one of my, and I had to show because it's so beautiful. So she stitched this for my 30th birthday, and it's appropriate because it's an Alice and I'm an Alice. I think this is a pattern from Jardin Privé, who are a French company, I believe. And I think she changed the wording. I think it said something else down here, but she changed it to "in my sweet little blue gown." So there we go. Yeah, and my grandma is just phenomenal. So she just, is such a fast stitcher. She's such a neat and tidy stitcher. She's incredible. And I think she put the 30 on Alice's hand as well to customise it for my 30th. I love the Cheshire Cat. Purple's my favourite colour, so there we go. So a bit of a cheeky old finish because it isn't really mine. But I've got lots and lots of things that my grandma has stitched for me over the years, so I think I might make a habit of showing them off because they deserve some recognition. She did an amazing job on them. Okay, so now I thought I'd move on and show you some of the things that I've worked on this week. Okay, so one of my whips this week is this piece. Now this is called, I think it's called Wedding Love, its official name. I just call it Wedding Sampler, and it's by Emma Congdon of Stitcherovia. I found this in a magazine. I can't remember now which one it was. I'm guessing something like Cross Stitch Crazy or The Wonderful World of Cross Stitching, because they're the most common ones we have in the UK. So in the original chart, this was all done in various shades of red and pink, I saw someone in a Facebook group had recharted it to be different shades of blue, but the same shade of grey as is called for in the original chart. So it's my progress so far. I've started on the bottom half, as you can see. I love the kind of subtle variations in the different shades of blue in the main motif. So I should say the reason I'm stitching this is for my husband's second cousin who's getting married later this year. So a bit of a deadline on this one. So I'm putting pressure on myself to put at least one strand of floss into it every day to try and meet that October deadline. I don't know if you can see, the fabric it's a 28 count even weave, and it has got some sparkle to it. Don't know how well the camera picks that up though. But yeah, so looking forward to getting that one done and framed. And the other thing I spent a lot of time on this week is this, and this is the Free Garden Sal from Doreen Jones. It's available on her Facebook page. She has 2 Facebook pages. I think a lot of people get confused. So if you go to one and can't find it in the photo album section, have another search, look on her other Facebook page because she has 2. So I'm doing this on a really cheap and nasty old bit of 14 count Ada, which I think I got as part of a stash job lot I bought from someone else. And yeah, I started on the border because that was the first piece she released. She's released one piece of this every week and they're all out now. I found the border hard going, to be honest, because there's so much of this green and it jumps about quite a lot, so I had to do quite a lot of starting and ending threads, although having said that, I'm a big fat liar because I carried that bit there. Anyway, the bits in the middle, absolutely stunning. Love the colours. I'm using all the called for colours. Love all the pinks and blues, and that beehive I think is amazing. So yeah, nice, simple stitch to do. I've been putting a few threads into that every now and then. I think there's a garden gnome to fill up this big gap down here. Like maybe birds in that bit, I can't quite remember. So there we go. And I've gridded this one just with a washable blue pen. And the only reason I did that for this one was because when I was first doing the border, it made it so much easier to count these long edges, so I knew I wasn't going to lose my place. So that's that one. Okay, did I have any other whips? Yes, I did. Because excitingly, I decided to do Stitch Mania this year. So if you haven't heard of Stitch Mania, all it is some stitchers in the month of May decide to do some kind of stitching challenge, and it really varies. Everyone has a different version of Mania. So some people take the date, so 2020, and do 20 new starts, and last year they were done 19 new starts. Or some people I've heard of Stitch Sania, which is when they work on a whip for a whole week, and then if they do that they can have a start at the weekends. They end up doing 4 or 5 new starts throughout May. I decided to do Stitch Mania my way, which was to start a brand new project every single day of Mania, but I did it from my stash. So I didn't end up buying any fabric or any floss or anything. I made sure that all the stuff I chose I was able to do without having to buy anything. So they're mainly smalls. They're things like Christmas decorations or little pictures and stuff I've got from magazines over the years. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to show you just my last 7, and I might make another video at some point which shows all of my Mania starts, but this is the last week's worth. So this is a cute little Halloween cat. This came out of a Halloween special edition of Just Cross Stitch, which was full of gorgeous Halloween ornaments. So I've done most of the cat and a little bit of his pumpkin themed hat. And this is on, I think it's 28 count mystery even weave with a beautiful die. Again, it just came randomly as part of a stash that I bought from someone else. That's that one. On the same fabric is a piece called Home Stitch Home. I can't remember who the designer is. This one, I believe, was one of the Be Well and Stitch freebies that came out recently. So hashtag Be Well and Stitch. There's loads of them available. So I think it's going to have a little house at the top, and then it says Home Stitch Home. It's quite a nice simple one. This one, excuse the horribly frayed edges of the Ada, that's because I decided to put it in the washing machine when I bought it because it didn't smell great. Anyway, but it survived. This one is called It's Home, and it's from an issue of Just Cross Stitch, just a regular issue I think. And it's really hard at the moment to tell what it's going to look like. In fact, I will put pictures in of all of these so you get an idea of what I'm aiming for. So this is part of a letter H, wrong way. and within the H there's a picture of like a house on stilts, and so it says home established whenever. So we're hopefully moving house in a few weeks, so I thought that'd be a nice one to have as a housewarming piece. This one is Christmas House. Came out of a magazine, I really can't remember which one. And it's part of a set of 4 houses, I think, which I'm going to use as Christmas cards this year. So nice kind of European style house. It's going to have some snow around it, and I think it says Merry Christmas or something along the bottom. Nearly there with the mania starts. This one, again, it's quite hard to tell what it's going to be. This is by a designer called Leslie Tier, and it was also one I pulled from a magazine. I think it was just cross stitch again. And it's going to have a teddy bear here with a little snowman sitting on his lap. So the bit I started on was the snowman's cap and jacket in nice bold green colours. There we go. And then this is my mania start for today, and this is by Tiny Modernist, and it came as part of a large set of patterns that I bought. I think I bought them last Christmas. I don't know if I saw them like promoted somewhere, Facebook or somewhere. I'm really finding it hard to work out where to hold stuff. Hopefully I'll get better at that. Here we go. So it's called Christmas Baking, the set. And I picked out just this little motif that says Stay Cozy. And I'm stitching it on a piece of cream even weave, I think 28 count probably. And it's going to have a little gingerbread man next to where it says Stay, and a little mug of hot chocolate to the left of Cozy. There we go, that one. I was quite pleased how quickly that stitched up this morning. I got that done in a couple of hours. And I'll make a little ornament or something out of that. So there we go, that's a week's worth of Stitch Mania starts. There have been a lot more. A couple of which I finished. So it's not like I've just given myself loads more whips. I have done some smalls that I've got finished in the same day as well. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about my plans for the week ahead. So obviously we've got a few days left in May. Today's 28th of May, so I've got another few days to start a few more things. And I'm also doing Whip Go this year. So Whip Go is something that happens on Facebook. There's a group for it. And at the beginning of 2020, I made a Whip Go board, which is a bit like a bingo board with different spaces. And in each space, I put one of my whips that I wanted to work on at some point this year. And the lady who runs the group, whose name I can't remember at the moment, I believe Stephanie rings a bell, but I could be completely wrong. She each month randomly selects 2 numbers, which are different spaces on the board, and that basically tells you what to work on for that month. And some people set goals, so they say I want to do 500 stitches on this piece, or I want to fully finish this piece. I just kept mine really casual. I just put the name of the whips in, and I said they're my focus pieces for that month. That's what I'll work on. And it's been good because I've finished a couple of things through having them as my Whip Go choice, and I've made some good progress on some other ones. So excitingly, yesterday, the owner of the group drew the numbers for June. So I thought I'd show you what my plans are going to be, what I'm going to be working on. This is the first one. So actually, before I show you that, let me show you the pattern cover. Here we go. So this is called Poplar Park, designed by Sally Rudkin for Stitch Inspiration. It's part of the Garden Traditions series. As you can see, it's all black work. So this is a pattern that my grandma gave me last year when we were going through her stash together, very kind. And I'm stitching it using the recommended floss. It's actually silk. This is my first ever time using silk. So it's a Karen Water Lilies, beautiful variegated. It's got kind of, not really green, more kind of browns I guess, browns and reds and purples, really pretty. And I'm doing it just using 1 strand. It says in the pattern you can either use 1 strand or 2 strands, it's up to you, see what you prefer. I started with 1 and didn't mind it at all, so that's what I've carried on with. Let's see if I can get the whole thing in, there we go. So the challenge with this, because I'm just using 1 strand, is I can't do a loop start, and it's hard to anchor my threads, and finishing off as well is hard because you haven't got full stitches to run the thread under. You just have to kind of wrap it under a few stitches, if that makes sense. But it is pretty, and I love the way it's stitching up. I find it quite hard to follow the pattern though, because it's not blocks, it's lines. I'm trying my best to highlight as I go so I don't get lost, but it is quite a challenge. So yeah, I'll be working on this in June. I will start by finishing off this pattern down here. It will be in the similar shape and size to one of these, just with a different pattern in. And then I don't know where I'm going to go next. I guess I'll continue with those central patterns and go round. There we go, that's that one. And then my other Whip Go focus piece for the month will be my oldest whip. So when I was going through one of my cross-stitch resurgences, which I did regularly from the age of about 10, I think this was when I was about 17, I bought an edition of Cross Stitcher magazine, and this was the free gift. So it was a giant chart pull-out. Now, even at the time, this wasn't really my style, and it's definitely not my style now. I'm not really a Flower Fairies kind of gal. But back then, when I was into cross stitch at the time, I really wanted a challenge, you know, and I'd done a few small kits and I was like, right, I've cut my teeth. Now's the time to try something really challenging. So I did this one. And I remember my mum saying at the time, that's too big, you'll never do that. So even though it's not the sort of thing I would normally pick to stitch now, it's like, I've got to finish it because it's a challenge and because it's my oldest whip. So let me show you where I've got to. So when I got back into cross stitch last year, after I'd finished my little Etsy one that I bought, my Christmas one, this is what I picked up next because it was the only other thing I had at the time. So as you can see, fairly big. Doing it on, I don't know if it's 16 or 18 count Ada, it's definitely not 14. It's smaller holes than that. But I've done quite a lot of that checkerboard background. I like that because, you know, that's fairly easy stitching. Once you've learnt the pattern for one of those blocks, you're off. And last summer I spent a lot of time working on the fairy and doing the back stitch on her, which really brought her to life. And then I started moving down into these flowers. So I guess when I pick it up next week, I'm going to carry on working down this left-hand side, here, down the border, and see where I get to. And I've gridded out just a little bit because, as you can see on the chart, there's lots of words in the middle. So I've got to do quite a bit of counting to get around to different bits. So I thought if I used my pen to grid out where I was, then I wouldn't miscount and get lost. My needle minder on there is one that my grandma bought me. Another Alice in Wonderland accessory. There we go. So that's my plans for the week ahead. The week ahead and the month ahead really. So I hope you've enjoyed my first ever Flosstube. I've certainly relaxed a lot more as I've gone through. I was quite nervous at the beginning. I was thinking I might at some point film a whip parade because I've got lots more on the go than what I've shown today. And I may need to split that into two. But that would be good because it will remind me what I've got and it will keep me accountable to try and work on some of them and get them finished. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want, then you'll see my other videos that I do. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.